The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All righty, I'd like to thank you for attending the my webinar using GoToWebinar on the flipped classroom. I want to start off with blended learning and what blended learning is and how I've adapted it to my classroom at Granite Bay High School using very little technology, if any technology. Well, I mean, obviously some technology, but very little technology, if any technology at school, because we don't necessarily have that technology readily available. And so, what blended learning, what I call it is blended learning. What I learned in iMET is it's using the internet, web-based instructional videos with some classroom times to reinforce activities. My name is Jason Rath. I teach at Granite Bay High School, AP Government Economics and CP Government Economics, and it's a part of iMET 14. Our learning objectives for today is we will learn how to use web-based instructional videos and mobile technology to enhance student learning and achievements in the classroom. Now, the question I have is, what is the flipped classroom or blended learning? And many people are kind of confused. And the question I've asked people in the past in presentations is, what have you heard about flipped classroom? And many of us, obviously in this room, have heard a lot about the flipped classroom. And what are you hoping to learn about the flipped classroom today? I'm going to basically, again, help with that in how to do the flipped classroom with little or no technology. And I'm hoping, I know the question says, why would you consider the flipped classroom? And I know I should be letting you answer these questions. These are more or less questions that I have in my mind for when I give this presentation. And if anything, I would say you don't necessarily have to do the flipped classroom like I did it. Just do the flipped classroom to where you feel comfortable. And maybe it's a unit, maybe it's one lesson, but it's just something a little bit different that the kids can embrace. All I would say, as I've learned throughout education, is when you try something, stick with that, and hopefully it will work and continue to work. The flipped classroom, I first learned about it from actually in my iMET 14 cohort. Our professor, one of our professors, Professor Rodriguez, was having us watch some of his videos, and he would explain lessons and explain rubrics. And I first was introduced to a screenshot, and that's the concept of screenshots, and then screenshot applications and screenshot things that I could use like Jing and Cam Studio. And I started actually playing around with this and creating my own flipped classroom with economics. And then I read this book, and it talked about basically filming your lectures, and having your students watch it, and how that can transform your classroom into not teacher centered but student centered. And I pulled this quote out of there. Basically, the concept of a flipped classroom is this: that what is traditionally done in class is now done at home, and that which is traditionally done as homework is now completed in class. And that is very much true. The students watch your videos as homework, and then they come to class and you do activities to enhance that learning and to enhance those videos. This is actually a picture of my classroom, and I'm showing you this for two reasons. This, you can see I don't have much technology. I have the PowerPoint projector there, but also what I want you to see and want you to understand is what I usually would do. Me being in the center of this classroom and lecturing, I am not no more. I am no longer am I the center of attention. I am not the focus of my classroom. The students and learning is the focus of my classroom. So what the flipped classroom is I take this lecture here and I put it on the internet, and the students go watch it using YouTube, and I'll go through that a little bit later. They go watching my lectures through YouTube to get the material, and then we come back to class and we do activities in this classroom with that very little technology. So again, I use YouTube to broadcast the lectures that I normally would do in the classroom. And here's an example.
Now let's talk about elasticity of demand. Elasticity refers to a change of price having either little to no impact on the quantity demanded or a huge impact on the quantity demanded. That is why the graphs look the way they do. That is why inelastic, if there's a small change in price, it doesn't have much effect on the quantity demanded. That is why this graph looks this way, because the quantity demanded will not be affected. And that is why that small change in price will have a big effect on the quantity demanded here. That is why this graph slopes the way it does now. There's 4 determinants of elasticity. The first one, is it a luxury or necessity? If it's a luxury, it's elastic. Think about the house that your parents live in. That is a luxury. A necessity, you just need a basic roof over your head. So luxury, elastic; necessity, inelastic. Can you delay the purchase? Yes. I don't need that new car now. Can you delay the purchase? No. I need to have that insulin. Yes, it's elastic. No, it is inelastic. Substitutes. Are there a lot of available substitutes? Yes. Elastic. Example, pizza. Round table pizza. Prices go up, I'll just go to Papa John's, Papa Murphy's, or Papa somebody. And substitutes. No, it's inelastic. That means there's not really a lot of available substitutes. Think of salt. There's what, Mrs. Dash, and then there's salt. So there's not a lot of available substitutes. So it's inelastic. The fourth is the most unreliable. It's percent of income. Large percent of your income, it's elastic. Small percent of your income, it's inelastic. This can change, though, if that one thing you need to live, i.e. insulin, which is an inelastic good, that price goes high, you're still going to have to buy it. Therefore, that would probably be now a large percent of your income.
So you get an idea. You see how excited it was. That was filmed late at night. Obviously, not much enthusiasm, but there's not much to that video. There's no tricks in editing. There's nothing. It was just, it's me speaking into the computer, but the students get the lesson. And there is obviously editing software you can use. But again, there's no voice fluctuation. There was really no excitement. You could obviously add those things, but my personality at 9:30 at night when I had to make that video after it was a long day, that's what you got. So the question I pose is, why the flipped classroom, or why the flipped? And I have two little things here. One, that has to deal with writing and reading. In education, we're moving towards called the Common Core standards. And especially in AP Government and Economics, what we have to teach, just teaching seniors, or even if you teach English, whatever subject you teach, you've got to teach obviously reading comprehension, and you've got to teach writing skills. The flipped classroom gives me the opportunity to focus more on reading comprehension and writing things such as an FRQ, a free response question, to a scenario, to a statement in government. My students need to know how to do that and do that effectively. And so the flipped classroom has opened up that avenue for me. And also what it does is put students first. Everybody learns in different ways. Sometimes people learn by doing hands-on, or people learn faster than others. But the flipped classroom, students go home, they watch the lecture in their own environment, and they watch it in an environment to where they're the center of attention. If they have things that are distracting them, they can pause it, come back to the lecture. They can watch the lecture 18 times. It's whatever they want to do and however they want to watch that lecture. And it's always there. Once the lecture is online, my lecture is there for the students. They can go back and watch it, review it. If they have questions, they'll write those down and they'll bring them to the next day. But the nice thing about it is the student is first. The focus is on the student and their learning. Again, the flipped classroom, when I like this little chart here, because it talks about, instead of the lecture today and the students in that traditional setting where it's industrial revolution education, we're doing an activity today, and the students, we're going to focus on learning this material and you comprehending it through various activities. Now, obviously, not every subject, not everything you teach every single day is going to have a very exciting activity, but you do have those activities. And so I try to do that within my classroom, and the flipped classroom gives me that opportunity to do so. Again, I mentioned the Common Core standards. The Common Core standards in education is the new wave where you must emphasize reading and writing skills. In my subject area, in English and other things, it's pretty common to do this already. But the flipped classroom gives you an opportunity to develop those skills, to have students, problem solve, to have students do projects they normally couldn't do. The flipped classroom frees up classroom time to do this. And so here's just another example of what some of those Common Core standards are. And what is expected from grades 11 to 12 in my subject area. Students are supposed to have conversations, work with premiers to promote civil and democratic discussions. All this stuff we can do using the flipped classroom, because we have opportunities to discuss things, opportunities to actually have intelligent discussions about materials and things that are in the classroom. So when you have reading comprehension and learning how to read actively and understanding what you're reading and being able to read something and then write about it, and you practice and you focus on developing writing skills, what you are trying to achieve and what you hope to achieve is what's called higher order thinking. And that's what we're trying to do. If I can get my students to comprehend what they are learning, to understand what they are learning, and not just regurgitate it for a test, but actually to apply it in the classroom in problem solving, then I've won as an educator. And if I can make education and learning somewhat enjoyable, not your traditional, all right, sit down and watch me try to entertain you, where we're doing activity. And then hopefully with doing this, we are again developing those higher order thinking skills. Whatever skills you want to focus on, if it's Bloom's or if it's anything else, then we develop that. And so I like to focus on again trying to get my students higher order thinking skills, try to comprehend different things, look at different scenarios, problem solve, and use the different modalities, educational modalities when we are doing stuff. Now, what do you need to flip to do the flipped classroom? What do you need? I put up here, you need courage. I know it sounds kind of corny, but you do need courage to do this. It's not something that everybody does. At my school, I do it. Maybe some math teachers do a couple different things, but I'm pretty much the only person I think within my district that actually does the flipped classroom. So you need courage to try it. You're gonna make mistakes. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's been easy. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it hasn't taken a lot of my time, that it hasn't caused much stress, because it definitely has caused all those things, but you need courage to try it. You also need patience. And you don't need just patience with yourself. You need patience with the technology. You need patience with your students' parents. You need patience with the administration. You just got to understand that when you do this, when you try to do the flipped classroom, I don't have technology in my classroom. I can't sit at my classroom is the only classroom in Granite Bay High School that does not have wireless internet. So I can't take my computer, and my computer is so old, I can't use my computer at school. So I got to go home. And I got to film my lectures when I get home from school. I had to do that for a whole semester. That took patience on my part, because I do have a thing called a life outside of school that I try to live. But I had to have patience, sometimes put my life aside, come home for an hour or so, film my lectures after I looked at my notes, and then try to upload it to YouTube, which I did not control that part. Sometimes the processing part took an hour or two. But having the patience and realizing if I stick with this, it'll pay off in the long run is something that I would tell you that you need to do. Again, don't be afraid to change. I know it sounds kind of corny, given who our president is and how he ran his campaign, but don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to change. You don't have to change everything at once. I did, but you can change a unit. You can change a lesson, but don't be afraid of that change. Obviously, the people in this room aren't afraid of the change because of being a part of a cohort that deals with technology. And also, you must believe in what you are doing is going to work. The data that I have that I've compiled for my culminating experience, which I know I didn't finish, but what I have compiled thus far is my scores from a year ago have risen on the government common assessment 25% more, for a passing rate. 25% more of my students are passing now that I've done the flipped classroom. It went up 20% from spring 2012 to fall 2012, my first semester doing the flip. It went up 5% so far from fall 2012 to spring 2013. In econ, I imagine those numbers are even higher because it's an easier concept. You've got to believe in what you're doing. You've got to believe in what you're going to do is going to change how students are going to learn and how you are in the classroom. Again, you got to have support. And that's the hard one. You got to have support from your administration. You got to have support that they understand what you're doing. I'd always recommend writing a letter home to the students and even giving it to the administration. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to ask my students to do. I just need your support, and you need to tell them that it works. If you have all those things, then this is something that's obviously going to work for you. Another thing is you got to understand is, how do we do this? How do we flip the classroom? It's not as difficult as many people think. All you really need is something like this. It's a computer. I use a MacBook Pro. I'm an Apple guy, so here I'm going to show you a MacBook. You have your MacBook. You need some sort of web hosting, where you can put your videos. I use YouTube, so that's my web hosting tool. You can use Vimeo, you can use iTunes, you can use all kinds of different things, but you need some sort of web hosting tool to where you can put your videos. And then you need to create an account for so your students can go watch them, and you can do those things. And once you've done that, if you don't want to create one of these, you can create your own blog, website, or whatever. And I have a Vimeo here, if I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Then you need some sort of screenshot application for your computer. I have QuickTime. You can use Jing. I was turned on to Jing and what Jing was through the iMET cohort. And that's great because it only allows 5 minutes. QuickTime allows about 15 minutes. You can do Cam Studio, which I usually don't use, but